Hey there, I'm Captain Steeeve, commercial pilot and aviation enthusiast, taking your burning questions from the internet. This is Ask the Captain. Let's fly. M. Wayne 91, can you reiterate how safe flying is? I feel like there have been so many stories about planes crashing lately. Well, you're not wrong about that. It's been in the news quite a bit. And unfortunately, the news, like anything else, and humans get into this, we like to click on negative stories, and we do it all the time on the internet. And once you get a hold of one, then you follow up with others. It's the safest way to travel, and you know that. You know that up here. It's here that is the problem. There are 250,000 deaths a year due to medical malpractice. You don't hear about any of those. Why? Because they don't make the national news. There are over 40,000 car accidents and fatalities on the nation's highways every year. You don't hear about many of those. Why? Because it's not as romantic or sexy as an airplane crash is. So unfortunately, it doesn't get a lot of good press, but it is absolutely the safest way to go. You have two professional, highly trained, highly scrutinized pilots up in the front of that airplane at all times. I can't say enough about the safety of airplanes. It's absolutely the best way to go. Okay. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a pilot. I actually am a passenger most of the time. McJumbos, how was your first flight? Terrifying. It was terrifying. First of all, I was at the controls. I had zero flight experience. I had gone to ground school. I had learned how to start an airplane. I learned how to taxi an airplane. I learned if you push up the power and then at the right speed, pull back on the stick, you go flying. I had never gone from rolling to flying. It was the most petrifying 15 seconds of my entire life, but I followed what they told me to do, and at the appropriate time, I pulled back on the stick, and when I did, I went from rolling to flying. I was so excited, I was like high-fiving myself. The instructor behind me is yelling at me, Steve, 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 what? I had like 10 more things I had to do. You got to raise the gear, you got to get the flaps up, you got to start a turnout. I was just having a party up in the front seat. But yeah, that was my first flight. I got better after that, by the way. Runs with Airplanes asks this question. What's your favorite aviation movie and why is it Airplane? Okay. Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. I think every pilot loves the movie Airplane. I had seen the movie Airplane, I don't know, a dozen times. I got married to the fair and lovely Mrs. Captain Steeeve. She had never seen the movie Airplane. We had been married about 20 years and we were flipping through the channels one night and there it was, my favorite movie. Airplane. And so I said, oh, we got to watch the movie. And we get about halfway through the movie. She's wishing she had gotten that 60 to 90 seconds of her life back, but that's another story for another day. And she finally looked at me and she said, now I understand you. All those one-liners you've been using all these years, that's the movie. And I said, Roger, give me the vector, Victor. Got the clearance? Huh? Next one is Noodlecaster. Really? What's in the black box? And isn't it actually orange? So many lies, he says. I think the answer is, yeah, it is orange. And the reason it's orange is so that you can find it in the ocean or someplace where it might be covered by mud. So the black box is just a phrase that we use. It is actually a hard copy digital recording device that records everything that goes on, all the parameters of the airplane on a hard chunk of metal. And so it's designed to, I think, like 25G impact, and it's designed to survive all of that. I don't really know much of the science behind how they get the information back out of it. They do, and they're geniuses when they do. But you're right. It is orange and not black. I'm sorry there's so many things in life. Maybe a therapist would help. Caleb Bloop, here's your question. Do you get to keep your wings if you retire? Absolutely. I earned these wings. Not these wings, I bought these off Amazon, but I earned my wings of gold in the Navy, and those things are going all the way to the grave with me. They don't take them back from you. You got them for life. Wear them with pride. All pilots do, and that's a really great question. All right, who's next? ICATN House. Yeah, all right, yep. How come no pilots ever know where the coffee pot is, or the creamer, or the cups? So first of all, I'm thinking that you're a flight attendant, all right? And you can't fool me by this crazy username that you've got. And second of all, don't be such a judgy McJudge-Pants. How do you know that every pilot doesn't know where the coffee pot, the creamers, or the cups are. And I resemble that statement, by the way. I'm 2 out of 3 on these most of the time. Ask my wife this question. She sends me to the pantry to find the peanut butter, and it makes me nervous. And I because I'm a man, I pathologically can't find those things. This is very sad, and I regret you ever asking me that question. I'm having a flashback right now. Thanks. Ted today. Can you hear the passengers from the cockpit? Nope. Can't hear the passengers from the cockpit. Now, I suppose if there was a big commotion in the back, like lots of yelling and screaming, you could hear that. What I hear mostly in the cockpit is if somebody drops something. Like, for instance, every once in a while, the flight attendants will drop a bottle or they'll drop a tray. And boy, it makes quite a racket, but it's a sudden sound like that. I don't normally hear the passengers in the back of the airplane. No. Maximus says this: what's the biggest emergency you've ever had? The biggest emergency I think I've ever had over the years, there's 2. There was the severe turbulence that we went through where 7 people got hurt in the back of the airplane. It was only about an 8-second episode, but we were in turbulence so bad that some people went flying out of their seats, and we had to divert to Canada to a hospital. Everybody was fine, but that was a very scary incident in an airplane. I don't ever wish to have that happen again. And I think the next one was when I was flying a student in the Navy, and we did something called a skidded turn stall, where the airplane almost stalled in a banked turn. We had lost power and one of our rudders got jammed. The airplane was disabled. I was able to limp the airplane all the way back around for a landing. And after that episode was over, I just wanted to go kiss the ground. It's one of those moments where you reflect a little bit on your life choices. But that's the 2 probably closest calls I've had over the years. Mop and talk. All right. What do all those chimes and dings actually mean? Great question. It's my biggest video, 16 million views on what the dings mean. Let's answer it really fast. Here you go. I ding the flight attendants when we're going out to the runway to tell them we've been cleared onto the runway. That's their last chance to sit down. The next time I ding them is after we take off and we're going past 10,000 feet. They stay seated until then. We climb through 10,000 feet. I ding them again to let them know it's safe to get up. They can do their service now for the rest of the flight. The last time I ding them is when we're coming back down through 10,000 feet. Ding them one more time to tell them, better get your stuff put away and seated because we're going to be touching down in the next 12 to 15 minutes. Those are the 3 times I ding the flight attendants. Any other ding you hear on the airplane is a customer asking for service. And that's it. Okay, here's the next question. Bwang. Wow, Bwang writes is this guy's name. What's the longest flight you've ever flown? All right, 17 hours, Bwang. 17 hours back from Delhi, India to JFK in New York, where we had a headwind the whole way. It's normally a 15.5-hour flight over. Here are all the parameters that goes into a flight like that. 8,300 miles altogether. 4 pilots, 2 captains, 2 first officers. We took 325,000 pounds of gas. You can divide that by 6.5 because that's how much a gallon of gas weighs. It's about 50,000 gallons of gas. And no matter how you slice or dice that, it's a long time to be in an airplane. 17 hours. I've flown that trip probably 7 or 8 times. That's enough. So the next question is from Rhythmic Room. Have you ever done a go-around at the last second? I've done several go-arounds. Now, every time we go back for training every 12 months, I do a lot of them in the simulator. That's not what you're talking about. In the real world, I've ever done a go-around, probably about a half a dozen times. Remember, 40 years. That's not a lot. More back in the military days than the commercial airline days. Everything's just more structured at the airlines. Probably the closest one I've had was I was probably at about 100 feet above the ground. And when you initiate a go around at 100 feet, the airplane's going to dip down to about 50 to 25 before it finally starts to gain altitude and climb back out again. So didn't quite touch down on the runway, but that's about as close as you want to get. A lot of the go arounds are done at 500, 600, 1,000 feet above the ground because the airplane in front of you didn't get off the runway in time, and the tower will just call and say, hey, so-and-so, go around, and you're doing it from 500 feet. That's really kind of a non-event. It's not nearly as dramatic as being down at, of course, 25 feet, right? But a half a dozen times over the years. Great question. Okay, next one is this. 1320 Fastback writes, how quickly could you start up a plane in the event of a zombie apocalypse? Dude, you and me, man, we think alike. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this very question. First of all, something you've never thought about. I think it's a matter of how many doorknobs you put between you and the zombies. Follow me on this. Zombies apparently cannot turn doorknobs. They can break glass and they can lean through a broken window and go like that. But they can't apparently turn the doorknob just to open the door. So I think it's a matter of how many doors and doorknobs you put between you. It gives you plenty of time to start the airplane. Or an alternate plan would be this. Hurl doorknobs at the zombies. They won't know what to do with them because they've never seen them before. That's why you've never seen that take place in a zombie apocalypse movie. The movie would be over too quickly. Food for thought. All right. Short final 12. Have you ever had a bird get stuck in the engine? Well, have I taken a bird into the engine? One time we took a bird into the engine. It was a small bird and the bird didn't fare very well. The engine won, bird lost. But it doesn't exactly get stuck. Although I will say on the outside of the engine, you'll see some remnants of where Mr. Bird used to be, or Miss Bird used to be. But there's not much left and they don't actually get stuck in the engine. Wilson127 asks, what's the funniest passenger interaction you've ever had mid-flight? I don't even need to get through this question. It comes to mind immediately. We were climbing out. We got up to altitude. That's the time where the flight attendants come back and in first class ask you what you want to drink and what your meal choice is. So the flight attendant was going through, and that day it was chicken or pizza. She asked this one lady, would you like the chicken or the pizza? She said, I would like the chicken. She was also breastfeeding her child at the same time. At that moment, the child stopped what he was doing, turned around to the flight attendant and said, and I'll have the pizza. This kid was at least 10 years old. The flight attendant called up to the cockpit and said, ooh, 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 you're not going to believe what just happened. That's probably the funniest thing I've ever experienced in my many years of flying at the airlines. That's it. That's all the questions I've got. Keep those questions coming. I hope you'll learn something today. I'm Captain Steeeve. Fly safe.